Hey everyone, welcome to the Cannabis Technologist. I'm your host, Rob Healy, and with me today is the head of marketing at a company called Lumigrow named Brandon Newkirk. How you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing well. Yeah, thanks for taking the call.
No, thank you. I appreciate you making the effort. Lumagrow has been making commercial scale LED grow lighting for horticulture for over a decade. I'm curious, how central has the cannabis market been in regards to your product design and what's unfolding there?
We do focus on all aspects of controlled environment agriculture, but these days cannabis is a very large piece of that. I think that cannabis has very specific needs as a crop, and we, through the dynamic LED spectrum that we have, as well as the adjustability of intensity and photo period, we're really able to address the needs of any crop type in a very dynamic way that hasn't been seen before in LED lighting or horticultural lighting in general.
Right, and that's what attracted us to you guys. It's so interesting what you guys are doing in terms of profiling the kinds of light to yield a variety of different responses in cannabis. So it's really exciting. I'm curious, just to set the backdrop, though. One of the things I read in an interview with one of your partners, Jim Pargo at Mesa Organics, that he initially got into this in terms of embracing LED technology purely from the benefit of getting a rebate from the government. That his experience has been LED lighting has been, yes, it's a nice to have, not need to have kind of thing. And it was in that relationship that he realized how powerful LED lighting is. And I've heard that vibe before, and I'm curious, why do you think, is there a reluctance in the market to embrace LED technology, particularly with the results you guys are getting? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think in the horticultural space, regardless of, cannabis growers will be very much forward-thinking in a lot of ways, but in the horticultural space in general, new technology is maybe not adopted as quickly as in other industries, and I think that the reason for that is growth cycles are very long. So to see if a technology is really going to pan out for you, there's a really large investment that it takes on your end as the grower. And people have been growing with HPS lighting for so long. They have that strategy dialed in, and for a lot of people, it works for them. But as technology gets better, it makes sense to start exploring and implementing more efficient and just technologies that are going to address some more specific needs of your crop. So I think that it's really that investment that is hard for some people to swallow, that investment of time, as well as, there's not just the upfront cost of the lighting fixture, but it's also of your crop. If you're not going to hit the yields or quality that you're aiming for, then you're losing out there as well. But through, all of the industry case studies, through all the new exciting technologies that are coming out related to LED lighting, people are definitely much more susceptible to adopting the technology now. And we love Jim Pargo, working with him. His story, he started with, he got a 50% rebate when he purchased our lights, and that's something not unheard of at all when you're buying LED lighting, especially when you're buying Lumagrow lighting, because we work closely with a lot of the utilities. And then when he implements the lighting, he's getting 50% energy savings, and through the control, he's able to do things like boost terpenes, really affect cannabinoid profiles, and still get the robust growth and high yields that he was used to. So through case studies like that, people are reading that, people are being more susceptible to adopting new technology, but we do understand that it is an investment for people. So that's why we try to work very closely with our customers.
Right, and the ROI seems to be a big part of that, which is a great segue into the next question I've got regarding cannabis and as a high-maintenance plant. For someone who's new to the space, what are some of the considerations when setting up grow lighting and automation software for cannabis that you don't need to worry about with other plants? What's kind of the difference?
Yeah, so a lot of the variables are the same, I'd say, but then there are unique variables for cannabis, absolutely. So for cannabis, we would recommend, we work with our cannabis consultants and some third-party researchers and medical cannabis institutions that help us to formulate some of our recommendations and some of our hands-on support, or some of our not hands-on support, but our research, our in-house research does hands-on research when it comes to things such as vine crops, leafy greens, floriculture. So we take some of those learnings as well as some of our consultants' recommendations to really formulate some actionable recommendations for cannabis growers. So that's really where a lot of this is coming from. We would also say less lollipopping. We tend to get a more vertical distribution of flower development when you're using LEDs, because we put more of our energy into the red and blue wavelength spectrums of our fixtures. We're getting deeper canopy penetration, and just the way that the plants are absorbing the light, we often see that you're getting more production deeper down in the canopy. So that's something that a lot of cannabis growers are very reluctant to adopt. They've been lollipopping their plants for a very long time. They're used to very top-heavy plants with HPS. That's also due to the higher heat closer to the top and then cooler lower in the plant. But as you're getting more of a uniform heat distribution, a uniform light distribution vertically, that deeper penetration, you're going to get more flower development lower. So we would also recommend less lollipopping for that. And then when it comes to the specific spectral control and various other smart controls, it goes very deep in what's possible. You can affect terpenes, cannabinoids, reduce stretching, promote stretching, really be able to address crops when they're whether it's their mother stage, veg stage, or flower stage, really be able to address the needs of that crop in a more precision way.
Sure. And the Smart Power wireless control system you guys have seems to be central to that. It provides incredible industrial control straight from a mobile app. And I'm curious, with the evolution of Smart Power, what was the big technology advance that made it possible? I'm curious, could you chat a little bit about that? I mean, because there's lighting, the product in itself, and the kind of light to use, but there's also the software and the system to control it, to get what you want. What was the watershed moment for that, the development of that product?
Sure. Well, we've been implementing Smart Power at growing facilities for many, many years now, but it's in the past few years that we've really started to scale the solution to something where growers are going to see a lot more benefit. For those that aren't familiar with Smart Power, what it really does is, through your phone, tablet, or computer, through a cloud-based interface, you can adjust the spectrum of your LEDs. You can zone your LEDs so that you can have multiple rooms and be able to address lighting in those rooms from the same device in different ways. You're able to monitor power usage so that you can really maximize that energy ROI equation. And you're able to create smart lighting schedules so that you can ramp up intensity over time, change spectrum over time, and rather than using a timer for your LEDs, you're doing it all from a software to turn it on and off. And then white light view mode is also something that we've seen the growers really love due to the very bright pink nature of the lights. For crop inspection, through the flip of a button, you can just turn on all white light, inspect your crops, and then switch it back when you leave the room. So those are just some of the tools. But when it comes to how this technology came to be, smart lighting isn't anything extremely new in the lighting space. It is a hot topic right now. It is a new technology. It is something that's sweeping every lighting market in the world. And horticultural lighting is something that we've been really trying to advance smart lighting in ourselves, and the reason why we've been able to do that is just through the research and development and the IoT network infrastructure that we've been developing for some time. Lighting for an office or space or for some sort of, say, parking garage, something like that, has different constraints than the harsh horticultural environment that is much more of an R&D type of harsh environment. I mean, you have high temperatures, very high humidity. You have water and solvent being sprayed in many instances. So there's a lot of very unique constraints that take a more unique and robust solution to address. So really, it's just been the developing of that network infrastructure, and really. But if I were to point to one technology that makes that possible in the horticultural lighting space, it would be the LED lighting itself. With HPS, you weren't able to adjust spectrum. The spectrum's static,
right,
and it's due to the nature of the light. But with different types of colored diodes, you're able to adjust between that spectrum and be able to control crop growth in a more precise way. So it was really when the diodes started, the efficiency of these diodes started to get better, I should say, is when this technology became possible.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that. I would have guessed the software would have been a big part of that. And I'm curious, given that education is a big part of this, informing clients of the value of it. Dealing with new people getting into this space, what are 5 things at Lumagrow that you would advise that would make or break a business as it relates to lighting? What are some of the traps that growers fall into in regards to lighting?
Sure. Well, to go back, when you said that software would be a large part, when I say network infrastructure, I'm including software as a component of that. It really, scaling the software along with that to be able to handle a large amount of, in an IoT sense, a large amount of fixtures for enterprise facilities is definitely something that's taken time to develop. So the software, the reliability, and the robustness of that absolutely is important. But our recommendations for growers, I always go back to the ROI equation. A lot of cannabis growers haven't had to consider ROI as finitely as they have in other horticultural spaces. So, creating very, very complex profit models is something that the horticultural industry has been doing for a very long time, but something that we don't see our cannabis growers doing very often, because when you're making hundreds and hundreds of % profit, you don't really have to think about your input costs as much. But nowadays, as margin compression's being much more of a concern for growers, and a lot of growers are being priced out, it absolutely makes sense to start looking at your profit models, to start looking at all of your input and output costs, and really starting to look at the growing as a much more holistic, in a holistic business sense. So when we work with growers of any crop type, where we look at quality of the crop that they're producing, we look at the yield, and we look at their go-to-market price, whether in the cannabis space, that would be looking at, are they going for extracts? Are they selling flower? It really all gets put into a profit model that we would analyze for them if we're really doing more of a test run and have our research team doing a formal analysis. And we would really look at all of the input costs as well. I mean, how much energy is it taking to produce to your crop? How much energy for heat, energy for lighting? With LED lighting, you're using half the energy. With energy rebates, you're using even less. And then with the reduced heat of LEDs, you often, that changes the model as well. So that would be, I'd say, number one. And then there's various crop considerations, like I said. You have to raise the heat in the room. You have to do less lollipopping when you're growing with Lumigrow LEDs specifically. We just find that flower development lower down is more robust. And we also say to reanalyze your vapor pressure deficits, which is the difference between the amount of moisture in the air and how much moisture the air can hold when it's saturated. A lot of growers that look at vapor pressure deficits have been doing so with HPS in mind. Maybe when they're switching to an LED solution, they don't really think about how that's going to change. And we give recommendations for that as well. depending on your specific grow facility. So it sounds complex. It sounds like there's a lot, but we really take a partnership approach. We have an in-house research team that works tirelessly for all type of crop types, really advancing the world's understanding of spectral science. We work with university partners. We work with large research institutions. We work with our cannabis consultants that work with large cannabis, medical cannabis enterprise facilities. And we're always developing those models and really developing the research, and we publish that as well, so people can see some of the great things that you can do at Spectrum with light, and get their wheels turning on how that could affect their own operation.
Okay. Very interesting. I know Lumagrow is servicing some of the biggest cannabis growers in the world, from Grow Generation to Appia in Canada. They're planning a 200,000 square foot grow facility in Ontario. It looks 5 times the size of the stadium. And they're utilizing the Smart Par system across most of it. Are you able to service upstart growers as well? What size of businesses are you guys well positioned for?
Sure. Grow Generation is actually, it's great that you bring them up, because that's a good answer to your question. We recently have partnered with Grow Generation, who is very much a cannabis enterprise and cannabis professional horticulture grow shop. So whereas a lot of hydroponic shops you go to are servicing maybe the home grower, Grow Generation services more of the professional cannabis grower of all sizes. So we've actually, through that partnership, we're addressing the small to medium-sized cannabis market much more hands-on, in a way where Grow Generation is able to provide that support for those growers that are really looking to use an LED lighting strategy, as there are those differences. And then in-house, Lumagrow, we're really looking at enterprise medical facilities, and addressing very large-scale cannabis production as well as other crops. So we're really covering all the bases there. Through our Grow Generation, they're great partners. They're offering some of that small to medium-sized support in a very knowledgeable way that you won't get with other LED lighting manufacturers, which they'll do more of a product sale. They sell the light, and hopefully that works for you. But we really like to provide a better level of support than that. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. You essentially can accommodate quite a wide range of needs, depending on what they're trying to do, and the partners that you work with. So it's very interesting. I'm curious, the recent study Lumagrow did on migrating red light to yield more terpene was really interesting, especially how it didn't affect the rest of the crop. I'm curious if you could chat a little bit about that, and also to touch on, do you plan to make an ROI of that? Does R&D become kind of be a marketing wing to build that data, the hard numbers that show, hey, this is what you're going to get when you invest in this kind of profile lighting?
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to the organization. The space that we're in is rather complex. I think that there's a lot of needs for that sort of research. You have very large enterprise medical cannabis facilities that very well may use, for some sort of extractions or for whatever your purposes are, could really benefit from a higher terpene level. That type of research, not only medically beneficial, could be beneficial across other realms of the business. So just advancing the science is always going to be good for growers trying to implement a new technology. And then there's, everything from universities and researchers to large-scale production, we find is going to find that information useful. As far as the terpene research specifically, we did find that in the final 3 days of cannabis flower production, if you were to use our software to turn red light down, significantly down, I forget if it was all the way off or not. I'd have to look again. But you were able to boost terpenes in in most strains. So for those that are looking to do extractions, that's a very powerful tool, and that's something that you can only get with a dynamic solution. But there's a lot, that's just one of the things that we publish, but there's really a lot of instances like that you can achieve by adjusting spectrum at different growth stages. So we definitely like to be advancing the research. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a great segue into my next question. Do you imagine Lumagrow creating a portfolio of lighting recipes based off the investment, all the R&D work you guys do, and use those recipes? Maybe you patent them, maybe you sell them. I don't know. What is it seems like that would be a big part of the value you bring to this space.
Yeah, we find that lighting recipes, although a lot of companies will talk about a static lighting recipe being the best approach for a certain crop, and everyone's talking about, their static lighting recipe is the best. We definitely take a different approach. We find that a dynamic lighting strategy or recipe, for lack of a better word, is a more precise way of addressing your crop needs. We find that lighting requirements change when it comes to different strains of crops. Just as cannabis flowers, say you'd have one strain and another strain, they won't react the same way to the same light. It's the same way as growing a tomato isn't exactly always lighting a tomato. You could have a beefsteak tomato, you could have a cherry tomato, different types of cherry tomatoes. They're all going to be reacting to different spectrums of light in different ways. So that's why Lumigrow takes a partnership approach, and we've been developing R&D in the space for 10 years. So we really have a more finite understanding of the interactions of light and crops than others do in the space. So it's really by giving that support that's more custom for what's your facility, what type of other extraneous variables are you looking at, what type of varieties are you growing, and then let's come up with the best solution for you in a custom way.
Okay. So what people who are new to the space, what can't indoor lighting provide that natural sunshine can?
Yeah, you'll see a lot of lighting companies talk about you can't improve on sunlight. Why try to improve on sunlight? It's a very poetic and nice idea in a lot of ways, but really what sunlight's giving you is the broad spectrum of different that middle light, that light in between the red and blue wavelengths that's really important for plant signaling processes, as well as other types of light that are important for plant signaling processes as well. So those would argue that there's other spectrums of light that are crucial, and although we do agree with that, that's why we put in a certain amount of that green light, or with white diodes. It's called green light when it's emitted from the white diode. We do put in an adequate amount of that for plant signaling processes. We do promote most of the light within the blue and red wavelengths because that light is most effective for photosynthesis. It's falling within the PAR region, the photosynthetically active radiation region, and you're really getting the most robust photosynthesis with that light. And you're also getting the most robust control with a dynamic LED lighting solution by being able to push more blue, push more red in different instances. You're getting what's the word for it? Just a higher level of control opposed to if you were using other wavelengths of light. So although sunlight we do say is good, that actually segues into a new product we just released, the SmartPAR Light Sensor Module. So that basically harnesses the power of the sun in a greenhouse. It measures the ambient sunlight within a greenhouse, and it automatically adjusts your Lumagrow fixtures to fill in the rest of the light needed throughout the day so that you're hitting the ideal lighting levels day in and day out, regardless of any sort of cloud cover, seasonality, anything such as that, any sort of limitations in your infrastructure. So we do think that using sunlight when whatever possible is a great thing. I mean, when you're looking at boosting your profit and really being conscious of the margin compression, sunlight is free. So we try to maximize that for our growers. So that's where that Smart Par Light Sensor Module product is really using your supplemental light to do just that, to supplement sunlight, opposed to address lighting as just a sole source type of solution.
That's really interesting. So it's basically designed to augment natural sunlight to yield the most of your crop. Has that scheme been extremely impactful? I mean, does it do better than complete indoor lighting?
Yeah, we found this technology to be extremely impactful. It's actually the first technology of its kind, really. There have been other attempts at light sensors with HPS that turn the lights on and off over time, but due to the long, warm up and cooling periods of the HPS, you're not able to address it very instantaneously. But with our dynamic LED solution, we're able to address that instantaneously. So if there's cloud cover overhead, you're able to supplement that lack of sunlight immediately. But we're addressing the daily light integral. So what we're doing is we find that the best way to address your lighting or your lighting for crops is to hit a daily light integral goal, which is basically how much light your crop is getting throughout the day. So say that you have a daily light integral of 20, and the sunlight was only enough to get you 15 for that day. You're able to supplement that with 5 with the supplemental lighting dispersed throughout the day by using predictive analytics and aggregating that solar data. We're able to do that. So we found that even in a summer day in California, we'll find that one day you'll be hitting your daily light integral goals where you need very, very little supplemental lighting, and then the next day, due to cloud cover, it seemed fairly sunny out. You actually needed a very significant amount of supplemental light that day to hit your goals. Not to mention in the wintertime, you don't have to worry about setting your goal to be as precise. You're able to just automate it. So it's definitely a game-changing technology, and we're really excited to be rolling that out.
Well, that was my next question. Do you guys expect this to be a game changer? And is it available in the market today, or is it around the corner?
It's available to market today. Yeah, if you give us a call or go online, we're taking orders right now. And it is a component of Smart Par, so it's a module that plugs directly into your fixture. The light sensor module goes on top of your fixture, and we just need to get it up and running within our Smart Par system, and then you're ready to go.
Okay. Would love to do that. It's very interesting. I want to pull back and ask a question about the business in general. I know based off our research, you guys have off your website a counter that tracks how much the energy costs, vehicle miles, forest acreage. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job of making a business case for the technology provided, which seems to be a no-brainer. I mean, that makes for a very powerful pitch to potential growers. And given that, talk to me about what are the biggest challenges you guys face in bringing this kind of technology to the market. What are the things that keep coming back to bite you, if any?
When it comes to energy efficiency, or just to the product suite in general?
Just as a challenge as a business, what are the things that the challenges you guys have in selling lighting in this space?
Sure. Well, I think that we touched a little on it earlier, but LED lighting just isn't completely adopted yet. I think that most growers are very interested in it, but a lot of growers are still skeptical about will they be hitting their yields, will they be able to get the same amount of quality. Not everybody knows somebody growing with LEDs in a large space, so in a lot of ways, we do understand why a grower would be hesitant, but through all the case studies that we've shown, like you said, if you go to our website, you're really able to dive in there and see all the use cases for it. It is, in a lot of ways, a no-brainer. it's just taking time for more and more growers to take that leap, work with our team, and really implement it in a way that works for them. And, rather than just hanging their HPS lights and growing in the way that they've always done, it does take one extra level of, working in close support with Lumagrow and really dialing in the strategy so that you can use that additional control. And a lot of growers are maybe hesitant to implementing new technology when they know an old technology works. I think really it's just an adoption phase, but it's inevitable. I mean, we have more and more growers all the time using our technology, and you're going to see higher returns with it. You're going to see higher profit margins. So the more and more cases of that happen, the more growers that are going to switch over. But in the meantime, we're just doing our best to offer the best support, and support by in-house PhDs, plant scientists, not just lighting specialists, people that really understand the crop needs and that can address it and speak the grower's language in a way that's going to most affect their business case and the case for their crop quality.
Understood. Very impressive. Brandon, this has been a fantastic interview. I really appreciate it. Do you want to let our viewers know how best to learn more about Lumigrow?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go to our website, www.lumagrow.com. You can see all sorts of case studies there. You can read all the different use cases of dynamic spectrum LEDs, how you can influence yield, quality, terpenes, cannabinoids. With other crop types, you can influence flavor, nutrition, growth rates. Going back to cannabis, you can make a more compact plant, a more stretched plant. So all those use cases are on there. You can dive really deep. There's a lot of information. You can see some of our research, and then you can reach out to us on the phone or through our website. And we're always publishing a lot of information out in the space. So stay tuned for Cannabis Business Times, Marijuana Venture. They're all publishing information about Lumagrow. So we're really everywhere. So feel free to just reach out to us anytime, and we're happy to provide support for your guys' grow.
Appreciate it. Will do. Thanks so much for the talk, Brandon. Can we do this another time?
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
Okay. Take care, Brandon. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
That was it, everyone. See you next time.